Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, I damned my immortal soul to the fiery pits of hell because I showed a little 10-year-old girl a picture of a corpse of someone she knew and loved. And also some very startling revelations happened. We pretty much may have uncovered the identity of the Reaper of the Bailey, the actual entity behind all the killings of people who would be let go from the court and shown to be innocent through backhanded deals and jury rigging and all that. It was a duo of Gregson himself and Asa Shin, aka Giselle Brett, that annoying woman from the very start of this whole adventure. So I'm still reeling, and Man, did we finish talking with Van Zieks? We did. I think we were about to move on to somewhere else, so... Oh, that's right, we're gonna go talk to, Professor Mikitoba. Let's do that.
I thought it yesterday, and I think it again today. This place is so princely.
It's a wild guess, but I have the feeling you'll think the same tomorrow, too.
My tea has a finer fragrance than whatever they're serving in the tea room there, though, wouldn't you say?
Ah, look who we have here. This is an unexpected pleasure. Who? Ah, big man himself.
Oh, Father. Oh, is this your daddy, Susie? How lovely.
What a charming young lady. And you are? Oh no, here it comes. Oh, really? So you're the author of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, are you?
That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service, sir. Susie's been such a wonderful friend to me over the last year, you know.
Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly and with much interest.
Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father.
Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes some way to explaining that bright look in your eyes.
Hee hee.
You wouldn't be smiling so airily if you knew just how bright she is, believe me. Now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee of the symposium, I was allowed to observe from the gallery, after I twisted some arms. And I must say it was a truly exemplary performance.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Although I'm fairly sure you omitted by Kazuma on the end there. No, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me.
Really?
You didn't miss a step against Asogi, and we all know how capable he is. Really, to have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year is quite extraordinary.
It's very kind of you to say so, and really nice to hear.
What I saw in court today confirmed what I'd been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday, Naruhodo. I trust you haven't forgotten.
Oh, no, you did mention something, didn't you?
Yeah, but he never got to say what it was.
But first, we have something to report, Father.
Oh, wait, no. No, he did say what it was, didn't he? What was it? I forget. Good thing Ryunosuke does. Of course. Shall we take the tea while we discuss matters further? Wait, did I skip to what Sato says?
Yeah. But first, we have something to report, Father.
Yeah, that.
Huh. I wonder where Judge Shigoku has got to.
Well, let's have a little chat, unless Iris has some things to say about this hotel. Oh, check marks. That's good.
Father, do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Bailey?
I've heard rumors. Some members of the judiciary explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was visiting a student here in London, a visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge. Right, he didn't appear until after that case when the visiting students had already returned home. Lord Van Zieks, who was in the dock today, that was Barak, the younger brother of Clint Van Zieks, I believe.
That's right, and he's known throughout London as the Reaper, as you've heard. But the truth is, it wasn't him behind all of those mysterious deaths. It was somebody else.
I see. So what you're saying is there's been a professional killer at work here. Exactly. Someone by the name of Asa Shin, in fact. I beg your pardon? Did you say Asa Shin? You mean that Giselle Brett woman who was responsible for killing my great friend? Please tell me you're speaking Japanese right now.
Oh no, a friend of yours was killed?
Okay. Okay. Ooh, So, earlier in this playthrough, I was like, is it okay to talk so openly about the professor in the lobby of this hotel, a place with high foot traffic? And I got some comments in the YouTube and on my Discord oh no, bro, just speaking Japanese, super covert, no one could understand them. And I think this just proves otherwise, because here they are openly talking about the true identity of the Reaper and all sorts of extremely classified things out in the open in English, because Iris does not know Japanese, I think. Also, another thing to go about is that, here we go, it's time for her to learn, maybe. Professor Mikitoba, I think perhaps we shouldn't discuss this right now. Because the friend the professor is talking about is Dr. John H. Wilson. And that's not something we want Iris to find out about. Not like this, anyway.
Huh? What?
Okay, Ryunosuke just says we shouldn't talk about that. Then here's a nice big shiny glowing button for me to press where I talk about that. Okay?
I've just remembered something. Biscuits. This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits.
That was rather out of the blue. She's doing this deliberately.
I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, would you like to come too, Iris?
Oh, that's smooth.
Oh, yes. You just try to leave me behind.
So that young girl is called Iris Wilson, is she? Yes, that's right. And she's the author of all those adventure stories starring the great detective Sholmes. Oh, that was Ryunosuke, I think. Oh, no, that was Mikitoba. But the name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see. Her father. Dr. John H. Wilson. I was deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during my time in London. That's why I was keen to reciprocate and invite him to an Imperial Yume University 4 years ago. But he was murdered last year by Giselle Brett. Why? Why would the hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about that case, but it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father. Well, I can't say that we ever spoke about his family, so I don't know if he had a daughter or not. But I think I can say with some certainty that he was never the great detective's partner. So it could have been another Dr. Wilson, you think? Well, John and Wilson are both common names, after all. Still, it's probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure. That's what we thought, yes.
We're back with cinnamon biscuits.
Oh, they smell delicious, Iris.
I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea they serve here, don't you, Susie? Yes, I'm sure you're right, Iris.
Alright, so where's the judge man? I haven't seen Judge Shigoku for a while, have you? Guilty! Ho 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 ho! But that guilty is still ringing in my ears. No, now you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning either. I suppose since this symposium's opening was postponed, he'll have gone to explore at the Great Exhibition.
That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Shigoku having once been in the dock himself.
Ah, yes, it was all tied up with that accursed trial. The closed trial of Kazuma's father. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand.
Oh my!
He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged. Oh dear. Although it's worryingly easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was all alright in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together.
Thank goodness.
Ah, yes, talking of Seishiro. I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday, please. Oh, no, the Stardust Crusaders. I wasn't gonna say anything. Surely Jigoku's okay. Surely he's not already dead and gonna be the victim of the fifth and final case here in this game. But I forgot, we're doing the Stardust Crusaders thing. One of these people's gonna be dead.
Oh, what a lovely picture.
It certainly seems to shout, we've arrived in Britain. Neat. Evidence. Delightful. It could also serve as Jigoku's alibi? Or Yujin's alibi? Even one alibis for someone. Unless there's a hidden detail in the background. None of us had any idea what was coming when we took that, did we?
No, that's so true.
I want to look at it a bit closer. Yep, I see nothing amiss, except for... It's very subtle, but there's kind of like a star pattern on this luggage. It's extremely faint. What's the deal with that? I don't even know if it can be visible on YouTube, but there's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... an 8-pointed star design on this luggage? It's odd. Anyway. So you mentioned a favor that you'd like to ask me. Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting, one way or another it will all be over before long. And when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan. You want me to do...
What? Father, What's the meaning of this?
Oh boy. Now, Susato, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense.
Oh, you mean...
The Supreme Court of Judicature is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer. As soon as possible. Really quite urgently, in fact.
But I've not even been in London a year yet.
I've read all of Susato's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs.
So, you'd be leaving then, Runo? But then, what am I supposed to do, Father?
You came here to serve as Asogi's judicial assistant.
Oh, yes, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant.
Our government is still in the process of deciding how best to deal with this situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Susato, and I trust your judgment in this matter also.
Father!
Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand. A hope, if I'm honest, but I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it and come to a decision by the time this trial concludes.
Yes, all right. You won't leave, will you, Runo?
The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Kazuma's will. But it turns out that he's still alive, so... where does that leave me? Fascinating. Now that was a really great excuse Yujin has, but at the same time I can't help but feel as if he's trying to get Ryunosuke the hell out of here before he digs further into this whole conspiracy and gets into big trouble. All these people relating to 10 years ago, there's just one more layer, maybe two layers, that have yet to come to light. There's something off here. Well, if you'll excuse me now, I need to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about Asashin.
Of course, Father. Thank you.
I look forward to next month's installment, Miss Wilson.
Oh, good. And please do come to Baker Street sometime, won't you? We'd love to entertain you.
I would be delighted. The best of luck for tomorrow, Naruhodo. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home.
You know, Kazuma-sama has always meant a great deal to my father. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this.
Yes, no doubt. Asashin? Of course, it's so obvious. Oh boy. At least it's just him who overheard it. Ugh. How could I have neglected to consider the possibility before now? Mr. Sholmes?
Hurley, where have you been?
Why, I joined you all for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question.
I didn't notice you at all.
No matter, no matter. Anyway, to more pressing concerns. Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, yes?
I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency. To Japan, you mean? Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who?
Well, my father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself.
I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bearded fellow. Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, back in old-timey days, being bearded was seen as, like, dishonorable and weird.
I don't think what father sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Sholmes.
I mean, it's really funny that she says that coming from a Japanese person. And the Japanese language does not have words distinguishing different kinds of facial hair. It's, mustache, beard, no, it's all just, hige, or higgy, H-I-G-E. So, by all means, Susato should think that this is a beard, but... There's not a moment to lose. Kindly ask your trusty unshaven father to see this is sent.
I will, but what is it?
No questions at this time, as you please, Miss Susato. All we can do is pray that for once my deduction is awry. Oh. Doesn't that imply that your deductions are normally correct? Now then, you may be surprised to learn that I'm a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind settees and eavesdrop on other people's conversations. So that's what joining us for tea meant. I leave the sending of this in your hands then, my dear fellows.
Ah, wait a minute, Mr. Sholmes. He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace.
And left the unpaid bill for his tea behind, too. Classic Sholmes.
I must catch up with father at the telegraph office at once. And I'll run and call us a cab straight away.
And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mr. Sholmes' bill. Oh. Bye-bye. Maybe Mr. Vigil's okay? And not plastered on the pavement below the window? Again? Oh, I could have phrased that a lot better.
This is the ward where Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently.
To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. Oh, hello. The lawyer. Hello again.
Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil?
Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you'd obviously tried to forget... God, even his striped undershirt beneath his coat makes him look like he's a prisoner. He's wearing prison clothes. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him. Oh, Cosmo beat us to it. He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought all this upon myself. Please, don't think like that. Has the floorboards in the bottom left always been so wet? Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well.
You mean about your dismissal?
looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along then. I'm sure this is just desserts for 10 years of lies and deception, but it wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear it. I swear it's true.
Oh, Mr. Vigil.
I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but if possible, could you tell us exactly what really happened?
I want to. I need to get all this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done.
First up, why is floor wet? Well, there's like a little bucket here. Maybe the roof is leaking. Where to read all this? Oh, wait, this is new. Ah, patient treatment notes. What did these say, I wonder? Endlessly obliging. I suppose that's referring to the patient in this bed.
I would think so, and until Mr. Vigil is a little more stable, it's probably just as well that he has a kindly person in the neighboring bed.
The endlessly part is a little worrying, though, isn't it? I mean, what if Mr. Vigil suddenly declared that he'd like to take a trip out of the window? Would this endlessly obliging patient simply open it for him and say, "Be my guest"?
Let's check with the doctor later.
She seems curious. There are lots of bottles in that cabinet there, aren't there? Do you think it's safe to keep them there?
If you were a patient here, I feel sure you take some medicine by mistake when you were half asleep.
That is a worry. But at least the cabinet has a lock, even if it's only a flimsy-looking one.
Oh, I've no doubt you managed to unlock that somehow when you were half asleep as well.
There are limits even to what I can do when I'm half asleep, you know, Miss Usato. Alright. Hello, sir. Look at this. Mr. Vigil, would you mind casting your eyes over this?
Ugh, my head. It's throbbing. Oh no! It's too soon, Mr. Naruhodo. It's too much for him.
I like that his hand is just fixed in place, like he's supposed to be leaning on the bench of the courtroom. It's too much for me seeing him swoon like that. Maybe I should lay off the evidence for a while. Alright.
Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about.
Details of the Reaper's marks, yes.
It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his identification and impersonate him.
You'd pretend to be the inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf.
Oh no, never! A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All I would do is go to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha. Just something to leave an impression, so everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was here. So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident? Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very vocal about my presence. But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters.
Yes. So you would always make a point of showing Gregson's identification and generally being loud.
That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes. Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though. And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me.
Without returning the inspector's identification to you, however.
We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot. Huh. It was at midnight on the 17th of June 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution.
Wait, so hold on. So, he went looking like he is, just with a red-headed wig, to the site of the fraud in the park, and made a big hoo-ha, he says, making a big to-do about being Inspector Gregson. Then was kidnapped, held hostage for a day, released, and then went back to Fresno Street to wait for Gregson. But, so at that point, he should have been dressed as Gossip, his alter ego. Wouldn't he need, well, you know, a place to store his makeup and his prosthetics? And he wanted a private place to do that. Wouldn't he go into Gregson's office, as it were, the rented Baron room? Wouldn't he have seen Gregson's body at that point? I'm curious. It was at midnight on the 17th of June, 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution. But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it? Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to effect a plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was. Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception. Or rather, one notable loophole. Something that was never questioned. I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. The coffins into which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct? Yes. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of a condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin for immediate burial in Lowgate Cemetery just behind the prison. The chief warder first had to sign the necessary papers. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I would wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had that confirmation, I went into the mortuary to find a lone coffin as usual. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork, having checked the coffin, then nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut. No. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So, you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was then taken out through the main gates and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery. Presumably there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long. So in the early hours following the burial, somebody dug up the coffin again to set Genshin free. But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder?
I'm afraid I really don't know. All I can say with certainty are two things. Asogi couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me. Obviously, you knew the man then? The professor, I mean. Genshin Asogi. Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary, they called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it? It was a time of delicate diplomacy, when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. That meant that this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly. The man had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warder, I oversaw his short stay in the cells until his final hour. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day, "Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives were taken, were you really responsible?" "I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes." Singular? The following day, the closed trial took place, and the verdict was no surprise. Guilty. That night, when he was brought back to his cell, I saw something unusual. Something unusual? What? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi. I would like to leave all my worldly possessions to Paimon. She was tempting emergency rations my whole life, but she ended up being a nice companion. may she be able to buy all the food she wants. As I said, it was on the night following his trial, after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells, and when I looked into Asogi's, I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. Ah, his last will and testament then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back. But why did he find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen a will when he knows his death is nigh? Yes, that's true, but there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things. That is unusual, certainly. Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy, but at the same time he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable. And what was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects he was allowed? That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper. Someone wanted Genshin silenced. So, he was prevented from leaving any written record of what had happened to him. Yes, that was the long and short of it. I've no idea where he obtained that paper.
Was it really his last will and testament, or was that his cover story? What if it was the, instructions he received?
Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he hid the paper behind his back, and then he pleaded with me.
What did you just hide behind your back? Please turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline.
But you know it's against the rules.
You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet.
All right then. But what's on that paper?
A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
How can a will be a weapon? So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing, and I let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without trace.
What? What do you mean it vanished?
It would seem that isn't the end of the story of this mysterious will. I was the only person who saw Asogi's will, but
somehow it disappeared.
It was after Asogi's execution, which was actually an elaborate jailbreak. The warders gathered up Asogi's possessions that were in his cell. They were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see. To poor Kazuma-sama.
And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects? The will, I mean.
That's right, though I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Kaden was livid. He was screaming. It can have disappeared completely. That doesn't quite make sense, though, does it?
In what way?
Well, we'd understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know how to look for it?
Oh, yes, you're right.
I really don't know how he knew, but it certainly seems as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was, the Asogi Papers.
The Asogi Papers?
I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened.
Your dismissal, and the way you blocked it all from your memory.
I'd forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though.
Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful.
I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evie will be here shortly, so I do hope I don't appear rude, but...
No, not at all. Thank you again.
But what will become of you now? Well, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested.
I'm so sorry.
Don't be, please. This was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come.
Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil.
Before you go, there's just one thing.
Oh, yes? What is it?
The Asogi Papers. I'd be very grateful if you'd make no mention of the things I told you about them.
Presumably for some good reason?
It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I'd remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think.
I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Asogi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder. Perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know more about a document that Kazuma's father left behind,
it would be Mr. Vigil's governor.
Yeah, let's go talk about it with him. Break the promise immediately.
Then we know precisely where we must go. Back to Barclay Prison.
Okay, goodbye, sad man. So we could go to the prison. Like governor's office, but can we see if Kazuma's here? God, it would be so funny if his name was Kazuha. There's a Genshin Impact character named Kazuha, and he's actually supposed to be Japanese. Well, from a nation inspired by Japan, but still. Oh, hello! Kazuma. I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? Then you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed that you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor.
Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama, I'm truly happy for you.
And I am truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Mikotoba. Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisaged it, but I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London. About how Susato-san's father was himself visiting a visiting student here once, along with Judge Shigoku. And about what happened with your father. Then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear it from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Hell yeah! Present! Kazuma, this is your armband. Actually, I think it's yours now. Sorry? You're the defense lawyer. You have a talent for it. I've always known that you would. And now you've chosen to take that path in life. As your friend, I couldn't be happier for you. Or more proud. Kazuma. So you keep hold of that. Besides, I'm a prosecutor now. That armband would have no meaning for me. Well, if you're sure. Thank you, my friend. That was sweet. Get a load of these losers. Kazuma, what do you make of this? There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors should discuss evidence, the courtroom. So it seems you're still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it. I get the feeling my friend's always going to have the edge over me, isn't he? Yeah. Okay, how about this? This isn't evidence yet. No. Okay, well, now we can talk, look around his room now that he's here. And it would be polite to do so. Left to right. Lord Van Zieks' fine collection of hallowed chalices and bottles all neatly lined up. Yes, he's extremely particular about all that. He has a strict regime for everything, from the storage of the casks to the bottling of their contents. Gosh, he must be having a really tough time of it being his apprentice. Actually, no. Oh? He's so particular about it all, he refuses to let anybody else touch any of it. So it's been quite easy for me, in fact. Talk about weird. There's Lord Van Zieks' incredibly stylish desk. It's not my style, though. No, I noticed he's been working at the little table on the floor, kneeling down Seiza style. I thought it was some kind of punishment set up by Lord Van Zieks when I first saw it. I find it the most comfortable way to work. I can't do it. After a couple of minutes of sitting with my legs folded under me, they start to go tingly. Don't exaggerate, Ryunosuke. We both know you can't even manage a minute. What the? It's a scale model of the crime scene. Oh, yes, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case? Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work. Be honest, you enjoyed making that. Do you know who the man in the portrait is? Why would I? What? But you're Lord Van Zieks' apprentice. Yes, apprentice, not friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture. Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture. I wouldn't have the first idea what the man decorates his office with. Bat friends. Watch out for rabies. Wah! You disturbed the bats, didn't you? Fitting companions of Lord Van Zieks, wouldn't you say? Oh, you don't even know. Actually, I've seen things flying in Lord Strunhart's office too. Doves, I think. Perhaps you have to like birds to attain rank in the judiciary here. Although bats aren't birds, of course. How about a sparrow for you? What's that supposed to mean? Oh, nothing. Sorry. Just thinking out loud. There is a bird law joke here somewhere. Casks floor to ceiling, just like the last time we were here. Hallowed barrels, I suppose. They're arranged according to vintage, flavor, and region. Every week they're all taken out and put back in order. What? Every week? Lord Van Zieks can't seem to settle on the perfect way of arranging them, you see. Vintage, flavor, and region don't neatly coincide, that's the trouble. Gosh, being his apprentice must be a real challenge. Actually, no. No way. He considers the task too important to entrust to anybody else, so he does it entirely on his own. So he's a barrel of laughs here and in court, then. Is he like me? Oh man, as someone who is autistic, that's autistic. I think he has autism. That's cool. Well, I cannot wait to pick Kazuma's brain, at last. What subjects do we have here? Disappearance, your father, the Reaper's trial. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. And after that, I suppose it might be back to Caden, and then maybe one more trip to Van Zeek's, and Strongheart, maybe? I am worried for Judge Jigoku, though. And I have no idea what's going on with Sholmes. What was that letter he wants to send to Japan? He's hoping he's wrong. Huh. Well, if there's one thing I know is that I'm sitting here and my stomach is rumbling. I need some food for thought while I ponder these thoughts. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I guess I could mention this. As of today, recording today, Capcom had like 18 minutes worth of footage for Dragon's Dogma 2. I didn't opt to do a reaction video to it because I did a reaction to Dragon's Dogma 2 footage not too long ago, but for this is just like pure like gameplay footage. Oh man, I need that game in my hands. I can't wait to let's play it. Oh. I need it. I need the game. I need to touch it with my hands. I need it. I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more Genshin Impact. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.